everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, I think this time it is actually going to be for real that we are about to get some bad winter weather.
Now, on a recent video, we were preparing the hoop coops for winter, and the weather kind of changed. We did end up getting a slight dusting of snow, but not what they were scaring everybody about.
Right, it was more like freezing rain that we ended up getting. I mean, there was some snow in there, but
Yeah.
it ended up honestly just being a big wet mess.
But this time, the weatherman is saying, go to the store and stock up because it might get bad 2 times this week. We have storms predicted, snowstorms. So we're just trying to do our best to get ready.
Yeah, they're already talking about canceling school for tomorrow. So, I mean, I think this is a sure thing. Anyway, that's not really what today's video is about. We just thought we'd give you guys a heads up. You can see the wind is starting to pick up. It actually looks like winter this time. Yes. We've already finished up our morning chores. It's about 9:30 in the morning right now. We've got a few last minute things to do with the animals just to make sure everybody is set. And then we're gonna head back to the house because we wanna talk to you guys about using a wood stove, how we use our wood stove to heat our house, and some of the tips and tricks that we've learned over the last 7 years of heating our house almost exclusively with wood.
But first, we are going to do a couple things that we want to accomplish before the weather gets bad, because we're not going to want to do this tomorrow, and it needs to be done. First, we need to grab some feed from our feed barn and head out to Waddles Ville.
Now, for those of you who may be new to our channel, you might hear us from time to time refer to Waddles Ville. Waddles Ville is a section of our homestead that we made last summer for our ducks and geese and Sarah's silky chickens. It's this area behind us. I think the geese hear me talking about them. We named, you guys, our subscribers, named this area Waddles Ville because of all the animals in here. So when you hear us talk about Waddles Ville, this is the section of the homestead that we're coming to. All right, we need to get to work because that wind is picking up. In the summer, Waddles Ville is a really fun place to hang out and watch all the animals. On a day like this, not so much. Now, we do keep the feed for the animals for Waddles Ville in here. Come along with me and I'll show you how we keep it. It's nothing fancy. So this is inside the duck and goose house. We have one garbage can here that can hold 150 pounds of feed. This is the feed that the ducks, geese, and silkies eat. They eat just a standard chicken layer pellet. It's a 16% layer pellet. That's what all of them eat. And then in this other can, this is where I have basically the same feed but in crumble form, and that's for the quail in the house next door. There. Now this is about 10 days worth of feed for the ducks, geese, and silkies. So even if this bad weather comes, we've got it out here all ready for them. That way we don't have to haul it from all the way over on the other side of the homestead every morning when we need it. Now the quail's feed was already full, so we don't need to worry about theirs today. But talking about the quail, the next thing and last thing that we need to do this morning for animals is we need to go out into the woods. We need to cut down some little trees for the quail. I told you guys in the last video what I've been doing is I've been cutting down little cedar trees and little pine trees, which need to come down anyway. I put them in the quail hoop coop, and that way they feel like they're in a little more natural environment. They can hide in it, they just have a good time. But after about a month, all the pine needles and stuff fall off, and actually they eat a lot of them, and so it's time to replace them. I'm going to grab the old ones out of here, and then we're going to go out into the woods and cut down a couple new ones. This is about the size that they are when we put them in. This was just a branch. If we can find some whole little trees, I think they'll last even longer. All right, that's everything that I had in there. We'll actually just take these right back to the woods with us. Let them become part of nature again. Well, we came out into the, kind of to the edge of the woods to throw these branches away and to cut down some new ones for the quail. And the cows heard us in the UTV, and apparently they think we're bringing them something very, very good, even though they just got a fresh bale of hay yesterday, so it's not a new bale of hay day for them. They think something really exciting is about to happen. I've tried to explain to them that all we got are some old branches and some empty feed sacks, but they still think we're going to give them something good. All right, well, I guess they're going to come along to work with us today. So right now we're kind of at the top of the hill, and right over here you can see we have a big drop off, but there's also a bunch of little pine trees growing right there. On a day like this, I don't want to venture too far into the woods, so we're just going to go right here and cut a couple of these little pine trees down. These all need to be thinned out anyway. That's a nice one right there. I think we'll cut down 3. That's a good one. Now, it's important to thin out trees in areas like this so that when you leave just a few, those will actually grow into nice big trees. When they're overcrowded like this, none of them are going to ever grow into a nice big tree. So it's better to thin out these little ones and make room for the ones that you want. Like that one right there. That looks like a really nice tree. I'll probably never cut that one down. We'll let that one grow up. And you can see, look at this one next to us. That is an old pine tree. It is huge. All right, I think I'm going to cut down this little cedar tree for them as well. Around here, cedars are really kind of a nuisance, so it's good to get them out when we can. But it's not easy on the side of a hill. All right, let's take these 3 back to the quail and see if they have a good time with them. Excuse me, ladies. Coming through with a tree. There we go. Excuse me, pork chop. Do my gloves smell good? This is the cow we named Pork Chop. Actually, one of our subscribers, Patty, who also goes to church with us, she named this cow Pork Chop because she thinks it looks like it has a pork chop on its nose. It kind of does look like a pork chop. All right, we need to go. It's getting colder and windier. Hey, birds. I brought you a treat. Somewhere to stay warm on the next cold days. There you go. Boy, it's just like being in the woods. There we go. All right. Well, we're back up at the house and just in the nick of time because it is getting nasty outside. It is starting to sleet. It's kind of like, it's not sure if it's raining or snowing at this point. It's just what I call a big yuck. It's just a big mess right now. And I actually just got an alert on my phone that we're under a winter weather advisory until 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So looks like this is going to come down for quite a while. I wouldn't doubt if they really do end up canceling school. All right, so we're back up at the house and you can see this is where we store wood that we're about to burn. I've got some pretty big wood piles out behind the house that are just outside. Here we're under our covered porch. And so I have this, and this is probably 3 days worth of burning if we're going to burn pretty much all the time. So I like to have this stacked here because that way, even if it's raining and stuff outside, this is always here drying out. I wanted to show you just a couple tools that I use to make my job a little easier when I'm bringing firewood up here. The first one is something new that I actually just bought this year, but I've been using it now for a couple months or a month or so. And it's, gosh, it's saving me so much trouble on my back. And it's this firewood cart. I bought this on Amazon. I think it was like $79. I wasn't sure if it would really be that useful, but this thing is awesome. You can stack your wood all the way up to even about here. I was going to stack some and bring some up to show you guys, but it is so nasty out right now, I don't even want to go bring more up, especially since I already have plenty up here for a few days. So, but this thing just saves a ton of work. You load it up with your firewood, you tip it, and you can just roll it wherever you need to take it, and it's really, really handy. Now, for our firewood, we cut and split all of our firewood to about 18 inches long. Most of what we have right now are from trees that we had to take down when we built the house here, and so these are a lot of black walnut. Now, I know before you guys jumped down my throat about cutting down black walnut for firewood, let me tell you, we had several loggers come out and look at the black walnut trees that we had because we thought maybe we'd be able to sell them for lumber. And every single one of the black walnut trees that we had here that were big mature trees had been struck by lightning at some time in their past, and they were not able to be used for lumber. So I tried. I was either going to have some milled for myself or I was going to sell it to be milled, but so none of them were able to be saved for lumber, which I felt bad about, but at least I do get it for firewood, and it's good firewood. So, all right, so we've got mostly we've got very hard wood here. So we've got mostly black walnut and oak is what we have here, because those are the trees that we took down. So we've got that stacked here, and then I always keep a little bin here off to the side. When there's small pieces like this, I throw those in there as I'm stacking it over here. And then also in here, every few weeks, Sarah and I will go out to the woods, and you can see kind of over where we cut those little trees for the quail. We've got a lot of pine in that area, so we'll pick up a lot of these little pine sticks, pine cones, all of that, and that stuff is great for getting a fire started. And then the last thing is down here on the floor. When I find big pieces, if there were, extra big pieces in my stack of wood, I'll set those off to the side. Those are kind of like overnight pieces. Those are what I'll throw in like just before we go to bed or something, because they'll burn good and long all night long. All right, so we're gonna take some firewood inside. We're gonna actually look at the wood stove. I'm gonna show you a few more things inside of there, and then we're gonna get a fire started. I wanted to show you also, this is a cool new thing. Actually, I got this as a Christmas present from my father-in-law this year. This has saved me a ton of work as well. It's basically like I don't know what this material is, canvas or burlap? Not burlap, I guess it's like canvas, but it's really thick and heavy, and this is for carrying wood. I use this to carry it from here into the house, and then I can keep, at least a few hours worth of wood or half a day's worth of wood in the house. We can use this to carry them all inside. It comes in really, really handy. All right, let's head inside. Let's get a fire going. This is our wood stove. For those of you who've been following us for a long time, you've seen this wood stove in many, many videos. And in fact, at our last homestead that we sold about a year ago, we had the same exact wood stove. We had it installed in that house shortly after we moved in, and I liked it so much that when we moved into this house, I had the same exact one installed. Now, I will tell you that I always personally prefer to have wood stoves professionally installed. We have a really good wood stove company in our area that installs them. The reason I like to do that is because on the off chance that there ever would be an issue where there was a fire and your insurance wants to know if it was professionally installed, you can say yes it was, and there won't be any issues with insurance because it was professionally installed. So that's just me. I know a lot of people install them themselves. That's completely up to you. I just feel safer knowing that it was put in by a professional. So our wood stove is made by a company called DS Stoves. We're in no way affiliated with them, but I will tell you that I've been very happy with the two stoves that we've had. They are a company out of Pennsylvania. They're an Amish-owned company. These are Amish-made. And this is actually a dual-purpose stove that can burn coal or wood. The specific model that we have is called the Comfort Max 75. Our house is about 1,800 square feet, and I can tell you that this wood stove does amazing in this size house. In fact, a lot of times, even on cold days, we're having to crack the windows a little bit to cool the house down because this stove is doing such a good job. So I think before we go much further into things, I'm just going to get a fire started so we can have it kind of starting up as we're working here a little bit, and I'll show you my process for starting a fire. Now on this specific stove, this has a regulator on the back that will open and close the damper based on how hot you want the stove to be burning. So there's just a little dial on the back. You turn that. When I'm starting a fire, I'll have that completely open. And then this wood stove also has a reburn system. So it reburns the gases inside before they go up the chimney. And basically what that does is it eliminates a lot of the creosote, it eliminates a lot of the waste, and you get a lot more efficient burn. So you're actually getting all the heat off the wood instead of the heat going up the chimney. So on this one, the way that you work that is there's a lever right here on the side that opens it up. So like right now, it's just a straight shot up the chimney, and that's what you want for getting a fire started, because you want that draft to go up the chimney. Now on a cold, windy day like this, it's going to be a little harder to start a fire because the draft is going to be harder to get started. You want the inside of this chimney to warm up, and then that heat is what's going to actually pull air inside of the stove and make everything, ignite really well. So it'll take a little bit longer on a day like this, but we'll still get a fire going. It won't be a problem. Now on this stove we have grates down at the bottom, and that is where all of your ash and things will collect. There's a handle over here on the side that we can shake, and that will let some of the ashes through. And then down here at the bottom is an ash pan, which I haven't emptied in a few days. But I still got a couple days left before I need to empty it anyway. So that's where all of the ashes collect, and then you can take those outside. A lot of times we'll put those in our compost, save them for the garden next year. And so that's basically how this wood stove works. It's got fire bricks on the inside. It's very efficient. We've gotten questions in the past about the clearance here. This is all to the specs that the manufacturer recommends. There's no need to have anything on the wall because we've got plenty of space here where nothing is going to, light on fire from it being too close to the wall. We have it sitting on a slate hearth on the floor, so that protects the floor, and then the distance from the walls and everything is to spec. Actually on this one, it's got these sides on here that are kind of out from the side. There's like a double walled side, so even when we have a very hot fire burning, you can put your hand on the side here and it's not that hot. All right, let's go ahead and get a fire started. The way that I like to do it is we'll take these little twigs and pine cones and stuff that we brought in. Put those down in the bottom. Now I'll tell you guys, I'm by no means an expert. I've been starting fires now for 7 years, pretty much every day in the winter, but I know there are still, starting fires is one of those things that everybody has their own way of doing, and once you find a way that works for you and your stove, just stick with it. So I'm going to put these twigs and stuff down in the bottom. I'm also going to use some of my homemade fire starters. I have a video that I did about making these probably 6 years ago already, but they're just cotton balls dipped in wax. We use old candles that don't have much left. We melt those down, and then we dip cotton balls in them to make fire starters. So I'm going to put a couple of those in here in a couple spots so we make sure we get a good fire going. And then I like to use a butane torch to get the fire started. We'll light those fire starters. And we get our fire starters started in there. Each of those will burn probably 5 or 7 minutes or so. Put any other little sticks that we brought in, and then these little pieces of wood that we brought in, I'll put those on next. I know some people build their fires from the top down. I build mine from the bottom up. Just seems to be what works for me. So again, do whatever works for you. As long as at the end you have a fire started, it really doesn't matter how you get it going, in my opinion. So we're just gonna put pieces of wood in like this. I'm going to shut the door, and I'm actually going to crack this bottom door just a little bit. I'm only going to do that until I know that there's plenty of fire started in there. Then we'll shut that, and the rest of the time that always stays shut. That just gives it a little extra air, especially on a cold day like this where we're having a harder time getting the draft going. So basically what we'll do is we'll just keep an eye on this. Once the inside of the stove reaches about 250 degrees, then we'll shut this damper here, and that will allow that reburn system to start to work. But if you have that shut right at the beginning, you won't get a very strong draft up your chimney, and it'll be harder to get your fire going. So we're going to leave this open, and we're going to leave the dial on the back all the way open as well. Now, one thing I highly recommend you get if you do have a wood stove like this are some of these magnetic thermometers. I keep one right here. This one's actually just kind of a backup. Now, I'll tell you though that these are not super accurate. These, for me, are just a quick read as I walk by. I can get a basic idea of how hot the fire is. So, when we have a fire going, I like to try to keep it in like the good burn zone, which here on this one, on this thermometer is in this green area. But because this thermometer now is quite a few years old and I know it's not working great anymore, actually it can get a little too hot according to this thermometer, and it's still perfectly fine. I just know that now. So really the best way that I have found to double check these is with an infrared thermometer. You can pick these up on Amazon. I think I picked this one. I think it was maybe like $30 or something like that. And these are extremely accurate. Every stove manufacturer will tell you like what the top temperature is for that stove. This one, they recommend not allowing it to get over 600 degrees on the top. So we try to keep it below that. Every once in a while, it'll get above that when we're adding more wood or something. It might get above that for a little bit. Not a big deal, but in general, we don't want it to be above 600 degrees. And I like to measure it right next to this thermometer. That's how I know that this thermometer is not accurate anymore. So this thing basically, it just sends a little laser beam from the thermometer to the top, to the surface. And then it tells you, like right now, it's 77 degrees on the top of here. Nowhere near where we need it to be to heat up the house. While we're talking about the top, one thing that I do like about this wood stove, and that Sarah takes advantage of a lot as well, is that this stove does have a fairly flat top. It's not perfectly flat. You can see that there's like 2 layers. Now this layer down here gets pretty darn hot. This layer up here, where it's above that reburn system, doesn't get quite as hot. But we can boil water on here. This is big enough to set like a percolator coffee pot. We often use it to make tea and things like that. Sarah will make stews and everything on there. So it is big enough. You can fit a small frying pan on here. The kids have fried eggs on top of the wood stove, not on here, in a cast iron pan on top of the stove. So it is big enough to cook on. It's not designed for that, but it does an okay job. And in the event that, you know, we run out of propane or something and can't use our stove, this is a good backup to have. The other thing that we really like about this one is that it has a nice big window on the front. That not only makes getting a fire started a lot easier because you can really keep an eye on it, but it's nice because we have this right in the living room. We can, you know, in the evenings when we're sitting, you know, reading or watching TV or whatever, we can have a nice fire going. It gives a nice, you know, just makes it nice in the house. And you guys get to see it a lot when we're sitting in here doing videos in front of the wood stove on cold, rainy days like today. So it's really nice feature to have. And it really makes it kind of more like a piece of furniture than just a utility in your house. Now, one question that we had recently was, do we keep a fire going all night long in our house? And the answer is no, we do not. And here's what we do. We keep a fire going all day and up until the time that we go to bed at night. Just before we go to bed, I will add, you know, 3 or 4 decent sized pieces of wood to the wood stove and turn it to its lowest setting. It'll still be burning in that desired zone, and it will burn, say if we go to bed at 10 p.m., it'll probably burn until 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And during that time, the house is staying sometimes a little too warm, to be honest. It might be 75, 76, 78 degrees in the house. A lot of times we'll shut our bedroom door because then it'll allow the bedroom to be a little cooler. But when we wake up in the morning, the house is still nice and warm. We do have an electric furnace in our house. You know, we have a new house that we built about a year ago, or it's a modular home that we put here about a year ago. It has an electric furnace. We do keep that on as a backup. So we keep that set probably at like, you know, 68 degrees, something like that. So just in the off chance that the wood stove would go out early or that the house would cool down a lot, the furnace will kick on, and then it will at least keep it from, you know, being too cold when we wake up in the morning. But I would say 99% of the time, the furnace never kicks on because the wood stove has kept it warm enough all night long. Then when we get up in the morning while we're having our morning coffee and getting ready to go out and do chores and stuff, we'll just get another fire going. Some mornings there will be enough coals left to get another fire going by just adding some small sticks and stuff. Some mornings we need to start completely over. Either way, it's not a big deal. But that's what we do. When we first started burning wood, I used to get up in the middle of the night and add more wood. I'd get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and add wood. And let me just tell you, that is it's just not good for your sleep. The way that my mind works is if I know I got to get up in the middle of the night to do something, I never fully sleep well up till that point. And so now we just don't do that anymore, and I can sleep through the night not having to worry about it. So that's just the way we do it. I know everybody's a little different, but that's the way we do it, and it works out really well for us. While our fire is starting to go really good, it's what we call in the green, which means on this thermometer here at the top, it's now into the green area, which is the burn zone. So what we'll do is once that's in the green, we shut this. That lets that reburn system start up, and then we'll still leave the dial on the back completely open so there's still as much air as it can get going in there. And we'll do that until this is, about halfway into the green area. Then we'll start slowly closing that damper on the back. And that will just keep a good fire going, but it won't let it get too hot. When it starts to get too hot, it'll close that damper on the back and kind of snuff the fire out just a little bit. So it works really well, and it keeps it very efficient. You guys, I know a lot of you have asked for this video. You wanted to see kind of more in depth about how we do, what we do with firewood, how we, start a fire, and the exact stove that we have and all of that. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, I really enjoy this stove. Again, it's from a company called DS Stoves out of Pennsylvania. It's an Amish-made stove, and this one is the Comfort Max 75. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with us today, going out into the woods, seeing the cows being all crazy with us out there. They just, those cows are they're like pets. I mean, we don't treat them like pets, but they're super tame, you guys. I would have never thought cattle would be like that before we got into raising them, but they really enjoy being around us. Hey, if you're enjoying videos like this, if you're enjoying spending some time with us here on the homestead, learning about how to live a little bit different way of life, getting out of the city, out of the rat race, we hope that you'll hit that subscribe button before you leave. And most importantly, remember that the absolute best way that you can help us, as always, is just to share our videos on your social media so that others might enjoy them as well. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care, and God bless.